One of the big problems with the transgender movement that's going across America right now is what it means for people, especially women in prisons. We've also talked about sports on this podcast, and Riley Gaines talked about kind of what's going on in women's prisons and men literally going to prisons and doing awful things to them. She said it in a really good way, so I want to show that clip right now. Take a look.
We don't see any women joining fraternities. No, but we're seeing men join sororities. We're seeing it in prisons. You know how many inmates, male inmates in California prisons in recent weeks applied to get into women's prisons? 1,600. And you know how many women applied to get into men's prisons in California prison systems? One. And she had 3 months.
I was going to say one if she had a hell of a sense of humor, but yeah.
No, she had 3 months left in her sentence. And so we're seeing this. AIDS is running rampant in California prisons because they're transferring these men over. I've talked to correctional officers. I've talked to people who have quit their jobs because they can't allow themselves to be in good faith, be a part of this. California has condom dispensers in their women's prisons. New York has posted placards in their all-female facilities talking about pregnancy prevention. We've seen people get pregnant in New Jersey, Ohio, Kansas, California, New York. The list goes on. And it's only happening one way, even in terms of how our language is being impacted. You've got bills on House floors where it would take female or mother or woman out of state statute. We're not seeing this to replace it with like cervix haver, uterus owner, menstruator, bleeder, chest feeder, birthing person, birth giver, egg producer. The list goes on, whatever other derogatory term they can come up with. But we're not seeing this happen to the word father or to the word man or to the word male. And I think for a couple of different reasons, one of which men would not put up with that for 1 second. Could you imagine a man being called a sperm producer? Oh my gosh, they would laugh in your face. Men wouldn't put up with it for 1 second, as we saw with Bud Light. They boycotted it immediately. But women, we're sitting by and we're cheering and we're clapping and at our own demolition, at our own erasure.
So this is why we say that this is a social contagion and it's not natural. That's why we're seeing trans numbers skyrocket. If you look, I wanted to pull this up for everybody to see. If you look at the Williams Institute, it's tracked how many adults and youth identify as transgender in the United States. If you look at U.S. youth, and again, this is just 13 to 17, so this is literally 5 years of someone's age, the percentage is 1.4%. 1.4% of the population is identifying. There's some other people that have said it's even 1 in 5 for certain demographics, like a little bit older, like 16 to 18. I think that's in very, liberal areas of the country, but still. And you're seeing that across the board, depending on the race, it's pretty even across the board. It seems like it's a little higher among Latinos. But then if you go to U.S. adults, that number drastically goes down. I mean, it's 0.5%. So again, it's 1.3 million adults. It's 300,000 kids. But again, these are kids. This is just 5-year range. And so you can see how many more kids are being affected by this than adults. And the reason why, obviously, is because it's popular. It's a social contagion, as I've said. And I want to bring up this is the two things. I've said this for so long. Transgenderism is the result of two very specific things: feminism and intersectionality. Feminism, because it teaches that men and women are the exact same, that you can just kind of fluidly go back and forth. That's where the concept of being non-binary comes from, which is a ridiculous concept. But then intersectionality, which is actually more important, I think, because when you grow up and you're told that you are on the very bottom of the woke and intersectional totem pole, say you are a white male, you're told that you're garbage, that you're the oppressor, the natural thing for you to do, if you're a normal person, you look within yourself and you think, I'm not oppressing anybody, I'm not racist, I must not be as low on that totem pole as I thought. The natural inclination is, that can't be me. I must be higher on that intersectionality coalition. Therefore, I'm gay, I'm trans. And so that's why you're seeing men especially. There's two reasons for this, but this is one of the reasons why you're seeing men mostly, not women, who are transitioning to become women rather than the other way around. And it's because men are seen as the oppressors. Men look at themselves, they think, I'm not the oppressor, I'm not the problem, it's the other people. Therefore, I must be a little higher on that totem pole. This could mean even that if it doesn't just have to do with the LGBTQ issues. You're seeing it all around. There's been a lot of people that have made a really good point. A lot of Black conservatives have made the point that most Black people in America are somewhere on a spectrum of half Black, half white, but they don't identify with being Caucasian ever. They identify with being Black because that's higher on the intersectional coalition. And no one looks at themselves as the oppressor. And rightly so, because honestly, there's not that many oppressors out there. There are some people that hold other people down, I'm not saying, but based purely on your skin color, that's just not a thing. In addition to that, though, you see the side that Riley Gaines is talking about, which is happening most predominantly in two spheres, which is in sports and in prisons. And it's kind of the more practical reason of transitioning. You have I think what's happening is more subconscious when I talk about people wanting to be a little higher on that totem pole, that intersectionality totem pole. But then there's a more practical side where being a man in a woman's world has its advantages. Again, in sports, that's very true. I think in prisons, that's very true. Obviously, sports is a big one, and that's why Riley Gaines got involved, because it turns out that on the bell curve, men tend to be a lot stronger than women in sports. And so if you're looking at yourself as a man and you say, I'm pretty athletic, I do okay in men's sports, it means you're probably going to excel in women's sports. And there's a reason why, since the beginning of time, those things have been separated. And I think my problem, and the reason why Riley Gaines has been talking about this so much, sports is one thing. And I don't have any daughters, but if I did, I'd be deeply sad if they were competing against a man and lost because a man had beat them. But it's not life or death. On the other side, in prisons, it is much more sinister what's going on where men are actively saying they're women. Again, I want to be clear, it doesn't matter if they've done the transitioning or not. If they have done the transitioning, the lie might be more believable for some people, but that does not make them any more of a woman. However, with that said, a lot of these men that are going to women's prisons haven't done anything. The lie is not even that believable because they're not doing anything to look like a woman. They put on a wig, they put on some lipstick, there's no hormones involved. And the reason why is because it's not even a subconscious thing where they think that they believe it. It's they know that they're not a woman and they want to do it because women's prisons tend to be a little less rough than men's. Also, again, YouTube has certain restrictions on what I can talk about with this, which is absolutely ridiculous. But if you just search transgender women going into women's prisons, you'll see some absolutely horrific stories. And it's not one story, it's many stories in liberal states, in conservative states. It's absolutely horrific. Again, nobody should be going to prison in the first place. Like it's not good to go to prison. However, if you have your mother, your wife even, your daughters, your friends who are in prison, you're expecting them to be somewhat safe, especially safe from men. But now what's happening is men want to go to women's prisons and are doing absolutely unspeakable horrors to them because nothing is saying that they can't. They can just simply say that they're a woman and poof, they are. So again, when someone goes up to you online or in person and they say to you, and this is the classic line from the left, why do you care so much about transgender individuals? There's a bajillion good responses to that, but one of them can be, this is why we care. Because I care because I don't think women should have awful things done to them by men in prisons. They should be protected from that. And there's really no better reason than that, except for maybe that it's just not true that men can become women or women can become men, even though, again, as we looked at the data, women don't really become men because practically speaking, it gets you lower on that totem pole and there's really no societal benefits to it, showing, again, that this is a social contagion, nothing more. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please go down below, comment, like, and subscribe, and watch another video.